Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. And most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to provide information from the people who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. Nick, what is up? Let's go out there. You guys, we're going to talk day to day. I got a guest, and I'm just going to bring him up right away, you guys. He's been on the show before, and I'm a massive fan of what he's got going on and a lot of his content and what he puts out there, you guys. So with that being said, I got my man Kevin Hill back on the show with Brush Pass Research. Kevin, what is going on, man?
Not much, Chris. It's always great to see you and be on the show and get a chance to catch up.
Dude, it was February the last time you were on. I was looking at that because like I follow your weekly Monday posts about, revocations and all the data that's going on in entrance and everything in the industry. And the last one that you had put out, I'm like, damn, that's wild. And then B, I'm like, shit, Kevin hasn't been on since February. I got to get him back on the show here.
Definitely. I mean, it's always good to talk data and talk freight brokerage with you. We were talking about some brokerage experiences right before we came on air, and it's always fun. It's always cool.
Dude, I think like this is, and that's why I always, I just talk from my experience, with everything that I do, because, I've been in the industry for a long time. I'm actually doing the job that I'm talking about right now. Like I'm cold calling, I'm prospecting, I'm moving freight, I'm doing all of this stuff. And I have such a different perspective on a lot of things, right? Because it's like, I say not all business is good business. And, and especially when you're out there trying to develop business, and then like the real work always starts when the shipments start moving. Yes. And what Kevin was alluding to there prior to recording, I'll talk about it after some of this stuff gets resolved. But, again, you guys, I have real life examples from the stuff that I go through in my business, because at the end of the day, I just want to keep putting best practices out there and talk about the reality of freight, because it's not just making money and talking shit online and talking about how good you are. Like there's real people whose lives are affected by this. And it's mainly the drivers who are getting the short end of the stick in a lot of these scenarios. Like Josue Ramos, who's a friend of mine, posted something this morning about how, he's on a load right now and he was told to be there at 8 a.m. And then he shows up and then the shipper tells him it's actually not going to be till like midday at best before it got, and it's just those real examples like that people go through day in and day out. It's just so much deeper than that,
It is. You want to talk bad about shippers? I can do that all day long, I think. So it's amazing sometimes to think about it. It was December of 2016, the last time I brokered a load. Mm-hmm. And it was like 7.5 years since I've brokered a load. And so it's good, always good to catch up and get the stories flowing, the juices flowing. I don't know if I would ever go back and broker again, but I guess I probably would.
Yeah,
I guess it's a little bit calmer, but it's good to have firsthand experience, real time experience like you're doing right now. I mean, there's a little bit of a separation between actual day to day, the grind, and my day to day activities, which separates me a little bit, which is good and bad all at the same time.
Oh man. I think that, what doesn't change though in all of this is at the end of the day, you need to find a solution. And like with a lot of the data that you're putting out there right now, Kevin, is, there's a lot of challenges out there to building a business. And I think that what we're going through right now is the reality of the people who signed up because they thought it was going to be easy. And because frankly, it has been easy. If you've had if you got in 21 and 22 and you had customers, it's been easy for you. It's been easy because you're not out there prospecting every single day. You've been moving freight. And then now as things change, as the economy changes, and inflation is what it is, like this is what everybody signed up for when they decided to go into business for themselves. Like this is the reality of freight, and it's going to be hard no matter what. And it's going to continue to be hard no matter what. So like the post that you had put out there last week is because it was centered around brokerage authorities, correct?
Yes.
And with that, it's, the amount of like, what was it? Was it a 10% drop in authorities between over a 60-day period?
Yeah, not over a 60-day period, over a year period. So if you take May, it's the June numbers, but it reflects May activity, right? So if you look at May 2024 compared to May 2023, you're down about 10.8, 10.9%. If you go back 2 years, back to 22, you're down about over 10% again. So you're seeing double-digit dips year over year in authorities. Of course, you saw this massive influx in 21, right? Where, you had net new authorities, maybe 500 or 600 a month for a string of months. So you had this huge activity back in 21, and now that's resetting itself pretty sharply, right? Talk about the market, it's a dog market out there right now. But you just said something that is really interesting as well, Chris, is that this is what we all signed up for, right? We had 21, we had 18, which were pretty sharp influxes into the market that lasted, relatively a long time. 21 really did. 18 seemed like it was going to go on forever, but it turned pretty quickly. But most of the time, it's just going to be a pretty even market, right? You're not going to. You're going to have lanes that are hard to cover. You have lanes that are easy to cover. It's not going to be like 2021 when everything was tough to cover. You're just buying trucks at any price. But you get back to the market fundamentals, and hopefully we get back to kind of a more even market pretty soon. Yeah,
I think that it's like, and I've been talking about this here a lot recently, Kevin, I think that if there's any mass exodus of providers that's going to continue to happen is I truly feel like it's going to be on the brokerage side more than anything. And I say that because I think that just back to human nature, when you've never had to work in an environment where it wasn't easy for you, it's going to be an extremely challenging thing. And I'm saying that because like at the slightest change in capacity that happens out there, you look at DOT inspection week, you look at Memorial Day weekend, I had never seen that many load opportunities come through from my current prospects and customers than in that 2-week stretch. So that tells me right there that people weren't willing to lose money. And I talked about this on last week's show. That proves to me that people were dropping the ball because of their inability to do what's right in those situations. Because it's like, if you quote a load, if you accept a load from a customer and you're off on your rate for whatever reason, whether it's capacity tightening up, whether it's, no matter what, if you're not willing to do whatever it takes to get the load moved, there's no tolerance for that kind of behavior in these markets, right? And I think like I that's my fear is there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to refuse to do that, and then they're going to get kicked out right away from a customer.
Yes, they will, especially in this environment. You're going to get kicked very quickly if you can't honor your commitments, right? And that's the reason why quoting and rating is so important. You see a lot of technology coming in there to address not only the price fundamentals of that, $1.82 versus a $2.29, whatever that is, and being able to do that quickly, more efficiently through a bunch of lanes, because you have to be able to price correctly, get that price out there, and then honor those commitments. And it's tough sometimes when the market's really volatile and sometimes those ratings and guides and quotes where you have to quote for 12 months.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what the market is. But yeah, you're exactly right.
I think that, another thing too is, how many people are actually selling right now? How many people are actually out there cold calling, cold emailing and everything else that are like, because just looking at my own personal sales cycle of what goes on out there, like it takes a lot, man. Like it takes a lot to get somebody's
Mhm.
attention because they don't need us, right? Like, and there's 30, 40 other providers that are calling them every single day. And this is relevant now more than ever. But, and
Yeah.
another thing to throw on top of that is the amount of people, like, I think the Pareto principle is 100% in effect in every industry and every business that is out there. I think that a lot of people, especially in freight, because like I've witnessed this firsthand, where one account is your bread and butter that accounts for 90 to 95% of your revenue as a book of business, or even I hope even as a company, right? Like where
Yeah, a lot of companies.
90% of it is it's like one or two accounts. And
Mhm.
I think that's something that is not being talked a lot about at all is the fragility of the amount of companies that are in business right now. And, and again, like this is just coming again from a bootstrap entrepreneur's standpoint here. Most small businesses in the startup phase are like 30 to 60 days away from going out of business every month, just due to cash flow constraints and everything else that comes along with it. And then you toss this on top of it, where it's like you're not prospecting, you're not planning for the future because you think that the revenue that you have coming in today and the margins that you have coming in today are always going to be there. You don't think it's ever going to end. And like, I'm just speaking from experience. I thought that way in business multiple times.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to be coming to a lot of businesses.
It is, right? As a business owner, your clients are always going to fire you.
Correct.
At some point in the future, you're going to get fired by every single client, just about, right? You're going to fire quite a few of them yourself, right? We were talking about it before we jumped on a little bit. Is those bad customers, or those customers that don't like to pay attention, don't like to pay costs, hard to get money out of? You fire them, right? And the Pareto effect, you really see it in freight brokerage. Every freight brokerage I've ever talked to, been around, been a part of, you have that 20% of premier clients, right? That make the business, and the other 80% that you waste all your time trying to service, basically, in a lot of respects, right? Because they're only contributing 20% to your bottom line, where that 20% is contributing 80%. And it's such and usually in freight brokerage too, it's not 20-80 or 80-20. It's more like 10 or 5 and 95.
Yeah.
Right. 5 and 95. You see this big outsource of that. But yeah, you have like 27,000 brokerages out there right now, and it's hard to differentiate. But between those, you're going to see more revocations in the future. You only have about 4,000 or 5,000 of that 25,000. So Pareto rule right there.
Yeah.
They're doing more than a million or so in business each year.
So, I mean, what data do you, because like obviously there's a bunch of shit that's out there, Kevin. Like there is, right?
Yeah.
Like you are not, like whether it's, the JOC or it's Freight Waves, or, Jason Miller comes to mind as somebody who puts a lot, DAT, green screens, like people are putting data out there all the time. And how do you decipher what's what? Because, everybody's, I'm never going to sit here and say some people are like malicious with their data or anything else, but how do you know what's true, man? Like where do you go to be like, hey, I'm outside of watching my show, but where do you go to like, hey, how do I filter through some of this stuff to make sure like I'm going down the right path? Because the one thing that has always irritated me beyond belief is when stuff's put out there, but there's no like, hey, this is what you can do to work through it. And I know that, anybody can throw the argument out, well, that's not our job and this and that. But it's like, these are like, when you say 27,000 authorities and stuff, that's 27,000 business owners in my mind, right? And that's 27,000 people, or give or take, that's like they're all just trying to make it here. But like when shit's being thrown left and right, and how do you decide that, man? Because you're putting out data all the time.
So I guess number one is no data set that we can get our hands on is perfect, right? It's not going to tell you the entire story. If you look at all the different pricing models, right, the reflections of a certain piece of the market. If you look at the freight broker stats, right, it is what's registered with the FMCSA. If you look at the carrier stats, how many carriers out there operating, that is part of the FMCSA. Neither of those were ever intended to be used for business purposes, right? The regulatory filings, right? So it has its limitations, right? Look at Jason Miller, right?
Yeah,
a lot of census data, really great analysis, but that data set has its limitations too. And if you do an analogy of the stock market, right? You have people, bulls and bears, arguing about the market, arguing about the economy all the time. So you have to know that no data set is perfect, right? That's the reason why analysis comes into it. You kind of try to pick together an entire piece of the puzzle, or put the entire puzzle together. And as they say, right, no forecast is perfect. No forecast is even correct. But just the act of forecasting is a really good exercise. So that's what you should do as an individual, is take all these disparate pieces of information and build your own analysis or your own narrative around that. It may be right, it may not be right, but it's a good exercise to do it because it gives you a lot of planning and preparation to go out there and be a better broker or whatever your profession is.
What I like the most about Jason Miller is like, he's not like, I don't know if he has any side businesses that I'm not aware of, but like his data is geared towards the data, and there's not a buy my course behind it. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. Yeah.
There's a lot of that shit that's out there all over the internet where it's just like, here's my data, but sign up for this. That like, unless that's out there, that I've never seen him do that. And that's why I like his data so much and his posts so much is there's, at least to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing behind it. It's just speaking in fact, and everything's debatable at the end of the day. Right. But like, I enjoy him out there because of that, right? Because he's looking at overall economic data and he's looking at it from multiple different angles. And I think like a lot of these underlying factors are all applicable to most people's businesses, right? Because it's like, I talked about this, like, I think it was like last year, at some point, because it was like, hey, when the economy is going to shit or inflation's up, what freight is moving? And I told people, I'm like, look at your household goods. What are you not going to go without? I use the deodorant and shampoo example, which God, I would hope people are still going to shower. But like, that's my thing is it's like, if I'm going to build a book of business in a tough economic time, what are the commodities that people are going to purchase without a doubt? And it's those basic necessities of survival, right? Because a lot of the extracurricular activities, like the camping and, throwing vacations, because those are the first things that most people eliminate in challenging times. And I think like, okay, boom. So it's like, I want to go after consumer goods. I want to go after food product. I want to go after this. And, cause like, I don't know if anything's going to change anytime soon. I think everybody's crap shot at this point on where things are going to turn and when they're going to turn. Yeah,
you have discretionary and non-discretionary spending, right? And you're focusing in on non-discretionary. People are still going to buy shampoo. They're going to still buy food, water, all of those great things. But you also have to spend some time with the non-discretionary, or I'm sorry, the discretionary, right? Where are your trends, your high value freight, right? Your highly manufactured goods. Things like that might be on the outs or struggling right now, but that's going to turn too, like every market turns. That's they're still going to be shipping, right? They're still going to be shipping, maybe at lower volumes, maybe business is tough, but that business is going to turn around. It's kind of like playing around in the oil field.
Yeah.
When oil price is low, not much is happening. When it's high, everything is happening. And
Yeah.
that's going to, you can't predict that market, right? So it's good to be in tune to those too.
Yeah. And, and I also think like, because I always want to bring this up and kind of clear up what I mean when I say choose a niche, because that's how initially you and I bonded, right? Choose that niche. And I think for a lot of that's when you're first like starting out, when you've never booked a load and you're just kind of getting your bearings. It's a lot easier to do that. But I think the more experience you get, I'm just like a full truckload guy at the end of the day. Whether it's a van or a flatbed, I'm a full truckload guy. I like to specialize in open deck, but I got a Sprinter van load moving right now for an existing customer because it was the most efficient way to do it. And, so it's like, what are your thoughts right now on those individuals who are like, man, I'm just moving dry van right now, but my customers are slowing down, or I'm in a an ebb in the market right now, or whatever that looks like. What are your thoughts for people to maybe transition in and be like, hey, maybe go try a complementary mode in reefer and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can dabble around with a lot of things. I find that a lot of niches are formed that they're customer driven or opportunity driven. You get this one little opportunity and you start researching and figuring out how to do that type of load, right? And then you do another one and you do another one, and you just follow your opportunities. You follow your opportunities, you get better at it, and all of a sudden you found a niche. And that's the easiest way that I can describe on how to define a niche. You usually find you. My first job in brokerage was for a company that basically all we did was flatbed in and out of Mexico, right? If I sat down, I probably wouldn't have picked that niche. It got picked for me, right? But it's a great niche to have, And if you're doing produce, right, you just become an expert at whatever you're doing at all times, and you get more opportunities in a certain area. You get better at it. You get better at it, and all of a sudden you're an expert at it. And at that point, I think the big mistake that people make is that they're still trying to diversify.
Yeah.
Once they find something that they do well, don't diversify away from that. Go all in on it. So every time you pick up the phone to make a cold call, to talk to a new customer, new prospect, whatever, if it's refrigerated produce, don't talk to anybody who doesn't move refrigerated produce.
Yeah.
There's no reason to. Because then you're thinning yourself out. You're getting into something that you don't really understand. Like if you said, you know what, I just moved a Sprinter, I am going to now just go out and call people that move Sprinters.
Yeah,
might not be the best idea, right? Stick to what you know. Do things that you can do to help your customer out. Now, if they give you 1,000 Sprinter loads, then you're building a niche there. But that's an opportunity.
I think that, a lot of people are, I think they overthink how like long it's going to take on a lot of these things. And like, cause it's, they want to say yes to everything, but and I'm saying this based on this comment that came in here, where it's tips for losing an account that you service for 15 months, 100% carrier scorecard, and customer decides to reverse auction, rebid freight to the new providers. Bids were scooped up for laughable rate per miles. Unfortunately, this is kind of back to what Kevin and I were discussing earlier was that customer accounting for a very large portion of your revenue? And if it was, and you were not developing business, like that's the prime example, because I've had that happen numerous times in my career. And again, like that's like when people hear me say contracts aren't worth the paper they're printed on in this industry, it's shit like that, but then again, like a lot of these businesses, they have to look to cut they're a business as well. They got to find ways to improve their profits, and they got to find ways to do it. So it's like, again, I'm never going to fault anybody. I'm going to be pissed if I lose business, but this is why I don't stop prospecting. When I say like, you guys are never good in business, that example is what I'm referring to, because you're one person away from losing an account, just like you're also one person away from getting an account as well. And like, there's an inverse action to that. And that's why it's like, to me, like, I will never stop prospecting. I will never stop marketing my business, my services, anything that I'm trying to do because of that, because it's like you are one situation away from something happening. I've seen it happen too many times.
And a lot of times that situation that you're talking about, right, you always think, oh, it's something I did. Well, from the comment, it's nothing that you did. It's out of your control, but you're just one situation away, one person away from that ending. Maybe that's a new person that came into that business who now wants to rebid everything because they have to show that they're worth the hire, well, let's say, and cut costs. Now, my advice is that to keep in contact with that shipper, right, and just wait. There's nothing you can do immediately, but usually, whenever oftentimes, right, whenever someone goes to a cheaper provider, they show back up on your doorstep in a month or so because they're thinking all bottom line, right, because that's where they can show their value. But then you have service failures, right? You have service failures. Their customers get angry, and now they're reshopping that, right? They're coming back. So having patience, having confidence, and not letting go, right? Keeping contact, making sure that you're updated on the situation. Speaking of, go ahead.
I was going to say this, Kevin. The biggest piece of advice I could also give here: keep your fucking mouth shut and your ego in check. Yes. All right, because of what you're saying right there, Kevin. I can't control what another entity does, right? Like if Kevin's my shipper and if Kevin and his leadership team decides to go in a different direction, I have no control over that. Here's what I can control though. Hey, Kevin, as much as this sucks, I can't, I'm here if you need anything. All right. Like I understand that decisions are made in business that are outside of my control. I'm here if you need anything at all. Even if you want to price check, we have a relationship. I'm here to help. Leave it at that. Keep it simple. Do not, because again, I'm a competitive person, right? Like I hate losing more than I like winning. Okay. And my initial gut when I was younger is to be like, oh, you're going to be fucking sorry. Fuck you. Yada, yada. That's what my initial reaction always wants to be. But I'm going to use mature in air quotes here. The mature version of myself wants to think long-term. And I understand because I've been through that position and that situation where I understand that things can change, and it could be 2 weeks. It could be 2 months. It could be 2 years. It could be maybe that person ends up getting a new job somewhere and they remember that you were positive and they're gonna be like, hey, I want to call Kevin back and bring Kevin in here because of how that situation was handled. That's the type of professional I want to work with. So keep those things in mind.
And Chris, you're going to agree with this. I know you will agree with this. The best method to having that mature, I'll do air quotes too, right? that mature attitude is to prospect, to have a full pipeline.
Yes.
Because it's not that big of a hit to you personally and financially. If that happens, if you have full, like, okay, I'll just go to the next opportunity, and just hitting those opportunities and let that, as they say, marinate in the background, because oftentimes they'll be back. You don't take it as personally. You're too busy to worry about it too much in a lot of respects. And having a full pipeline is a great equalizer in everything in sales.
Yeah, I think that solves everything in these instances, right? Because it's like as this year progresses and it's probably going to bleed into 2025 as well, there's going to be people celebrating that a bunch of people are going out of business. All right. That's like people are going to die on some of these hills. And, my whole thing with everything is at the end of the day, you guys, I have a family to feed, just like everybody who's watching this show right now and will be in the future. Like I personally don't give a shit what anybody else out there is saying. I have to make sure my pipeline's full. I have to keep prospecting because, again, I've added 2 new shippers, you guys, in the last week, and I've moved 2 shipments with them. Okay. So anybody out there who says that cold calling's dead or nobody's adding, they're not actually fucking doing anything. Okay. No, it's not easy. All right. It takes a lot of work, but it's always taken a lot of work. These last couple of years were fantasy land for a lot of people. Money was very easy and it was a very chaotic time. Where we are right now and where we are heading is a real freight market. And this is how it is done. If you talk to anybody who's been in this industry for a long time, like, yeah, it sucks for me right now, but I've seen this shit before. I've seen it. I've worked in this environment And I'm going to continue to work in this environment. And then another thing, you guys, winners are going to win. All right. Plain and simple. Winners will find a way to win. Let everybody else quit. But
exactly right.
Well, damn, man, that was a quick 30 minutes, Kevin.
I know, right? It always is.
Well, Kevin, how does everybody find out more about what you got going on with Brush Pass?
Yeah, you can contact me directly on LinkedIn, Kevin Hill, or you can go to brushpassresearch.com. Or if you want to see free research out there about freight brokerage authorities and then the freight brokerage industry in general, brushpassresearch.blog. So,
perfect. Yeah, you guys. I follow Kevin. Kevin was like legitimately one of the very first people that got behind the content I was creating back in 2020. I'm a big fan of what he has going on in the approach that he's taking with a lot of his research. I follow his content all the time because at the end of the day, you guys, I just want to bring unbiased opinions on here and people who care about the industry, and Kevin cares about the industry at the end of the day. So hit up Kevin, follow him, support his companies and everything else. But that's going to be it for today, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. I got another guest coming on someday this week. I don't remember. I got a lot of stuff going on right now, you guys, but we'll be back tomorrow as always, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. If you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.